A new proposed law in California would ban prison officials from requiring inmates in prison to clean their own toilet or to wash their own laundry. Coming up, we'll tell you about the latest crazy liberal coddle the criminal proposal from our state legislature and what we're doing to fight back. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California, and we have a crime wave in this state, and it's because California's liberal politicians have decided to bend over backwards and do all sorts of things to please the whims of California criminals. They don't want to punish criminals. They think criminals are victims of a system that has really not taken care of their needs. And that crime victims themselves, well, they shouldn't really get their day in court. They should not get justice. That's why since the beginning of his administration in 2018, or January of 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom has released over 90,000 felons from California state prisons. It used to be that we had an overcrowding problem in state prisons. Now we have ample space, so much so that Governor Gavin Newsom is proposing to shut 4 state prisons in his latest budget proposal. He says they need to save money. Well, when you release criminals onto the street, you get what we're getting today, and that is a crime wave. And you also don't save money in the long run, because what is the impact to communities, neighborhoods, families, victims from the crimes committed by these individuals because they've not been rehabilitated and they've been given early release? Well, the latest proposal to coddle criminals comes in the form of a state constitutional amendment. And it is involuntary servitude. This is a state constitutional amendment. ACA 8 is the bill number. ACA as Assembly Constitutional Amendment 8. And it was introduced in 2023. It's right now pending a vote in the state Senate because it's already passed overwhelmingly in the state assembly. We'll get to the votes in just a minute, but what would it do? It would eliminate involuntary servitude as punishment for a crime. Now, you might say, well, Carl, servitude, what a strong word. We shouldn't be forcing people into labor. Well, the 13th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and California's state constitution has similar language in its state constitution, says that you can't have slavery, except you can force people to work who've been convicted of a crime. And the reason why that language was included in the 13th Amendment as well as in our state constitution is that when you put someone in prison, you may have to tell them to do certain things. What do we tell them to do? Well, we tell them to do jobs, to help run the prison so that we can defray costs to you, the taxpayer. We also tell them sometimes they've got to do jobs because we've got a labor force behind bars sitting there doing nothing, taking up a lot of taxpayer money because we have to clothe them, feed them, house them, care for them in terms of health insurance. All these taxpayer costs, and they say it costs about $130,000 a year. $130,000 a year per inmate. Don't get me started on the cost overruns in state prisons and how we can get that number way, way down. But if it's costing $130,000 per year per inmate, because government in California is so inefficient, we should at least try to recoup some of that for taxpayers by saying, hey, you're going to make license plates. You know, the old, adage, you're going to be behind bars making license plates if you keep this up. Well, that won't be allowed. In fact, we won't even be able to require them to clean their own toilet in their cell or make their bed or wash their own laundry. Here is a excerpt from the Forced Labor in Prisons page. And it says, quote, some of the most common forms of prison labor include cleaning, 'cleaning, 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 Oh, the horror. In other words, taking care of yourself, cleaning up after yourself. Bitch, please. Yeah, I mean, this should be a punishment. They should be doing work in prison. They should be cleaning a toilet or two. Because the rest of us in society have to do it. We've got to take care of ourselves. We have to clean up ourselves. We've got to do our own laundry. But not if this law passes. Prisoners will sit back and say, get me a maid. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing laundry. I'm not cleaning a toilet. I'm not mopping the floors. I'm certainly not making no license plates. We need the flexibility. We need the authority to put prisoners to work for two reasons. Number one, it reduces costs. But number two, it is part of rehabilitation. Isn't that what prisons should be about? Not just punishment, but getting these people to finally take care of themselves, take personal responsibility, develop good habits for living. Doing work details is certainly something as part of that. Now, part of my decision to go after the homeless problem is that if we are putting someone up in a shelter with a shelter bed, 3 square meals a day, we're caring for them, we're giving them treatment programs, I think that there should be a mandatory work detail for the homeless. It's part of the strategy of holding these folks accountable, but it's also part of getting them into the habits of good, independent living. This initiative passes, all those tools will be taken out of the inventory, and these tools are absolutely necessary to dealing with problem people in society whose parents have never required that they clean up their room or do chores. And so, yeah, they have to be forced to do that when we are trying to put them through rehabilitation. Oh, but the horror of slavery. It's not slavery. No. This is a necessary tool to both reduce costs and rehabilitate. And yet it's being taken away from us because guess what? The leftists don't want to rehabilitate criminals. They want to give them resort-style living. They want to coddle them and cater to them. And that's why we're going to get more crime, because crime pays. In those scenarios, crime pays. There's no effective deterrence. Prisons are no longer punishment. Not that they're going to spend a lot of time in prison under the California model. So we're urging a no vote on ACA 8. It still has to go to the state Senate, but look at what happened in the state assembly. 85% of our legislators voted for this nonsense, including 6 Republicans. Only 4 Republicans had the guts. 5% of the legislators had the guts to show up and vote against this insane proposal. And of course, 8 Republicans were too chicken blank to even show up and vote on the bill. This is why we want to build a Reform California caucus. This sort of crap is just as bad as the votes in favor of it. Because what we're saying is, oh, it's not that controversial a proposal. We won't speak up. Only 5% voted against, and 85% voted for. 10% took a walk. This is perhaps one of the worst criminal justice proposals we've seen in a long time. And we're in California, and they have really goosed the system with bad criminal justice laws in the last 2 decades, which has led to the crime surge. When we take a look at the bill itself, here are the votes. Oh, I know. You don't like the fact that I'm showcasing the people that were bad here. Well, first, let me give credit to the good people. Megan Dolly, Diane Dixon, James Gallagher, and Kate Sanchez. Thank you for voting no. Who voted yes on the Republican side? Well, all the Democrats voted yes. But we've got Phil Chen from Orange County voted yes. Heath Flora from Central Valley voted yes. There's, as I'm going through the list here, just a moment. Marie Waldron from San Diego voted yes. Greg Wallace from Riverside voted yes. Insane. The ones that didn't vote: Lori Davies, Bill Asaley, Vince Fong, Tom Lackey, Devin Mathis, Jim Patterson, and Joe Patterson, and Trita. Don't know where they were that day. Some of them may have been out on business. I don't think Asaley would have voted for this nonsense. Very disappointed that Republicans did not put up more of an opposition to this absurd bill. To contact your legislator and tell them that you do not want ACA 8 to pass. They call it slavery. Go to the Reform California website, and under voter help, click under Find My Representatives, and you can put in your information for state senate or state assembly and get the contact information for your legislator and tell them, and don't worry about the assembly members because it's already passed in the assembly. Focus on the state senate because that's where the vote comes up next. We need to vote this thing down. It needs a 2/3 vote to pass in the state senate and be put then on the ballot because it's a statewide constitutional amendment. If it becomes a statewide constitutional amendment and gets put on the ballot, Reform California will oppose it vehemently with our voter guide. And that's where you come in. While you're on that website looking up your state senator, please chip in a contribution so that we can bring shows like this out every day on important topics like ACA 8, bring it to the attention of voters, explain what it really is. It's not about slavery. It's about coddling criminals. And help us get the voter guide distributed in November. Again, it takes financial resources to do that, to contact voters, to publish the voter guide for every region of the state. Chip in a contribution at reformcalifornia.org. Finally, as part of this whole kick on slavery, the state assembly last week passed a bill apologizing for California's role in supporting slavery. A little bit of a history lesson. California entered the Union as a free state. We've always outlawed slavery. And yet here you got this race baiter, Reggie Jones Sawyer, Democrat from Los Angeles, author of Assembly Bill 3089, saying we need to apologize for our role in slavery. We didn't have a role in slavery. But Carl, we are part of discrimination. It's terrible. We've been a bad state. So what do they want? They want their bill apologizes on paper. And then it requires that a plaque be built inside the state capitol, memorializing the apology in bronze print in a prominent location in the state capitol. An apology for a practice that California never had, by people who actually are causing more damage in real terms, with high cost of living, schools that fail Black and brown students, high crime in neighborhoods, predominantly minority neighborhoods, getting hurt the most. You want to talk about an apology for something? How about you Democrats apologize for the homeless epidemic, the crime wave, failing schools, and the high cost of living, and destroying jobs? That would just be the first rung of apologies that you should make. And instead of just saying it, why don't you wake up and change the policies that have hurt so many people in this state, so much so that people are fleeing in record numbers? Oh, can't do that. So instead, you race bait and showboat on something so meaningless and ignorant as this resolution. This is why California is doing so poorly, is that we have this caliber of failed leadership. All about ignorance, misinformation, and showboating, no real result. At Reform California, we need to build a Reform California caucus inside the state legislature. That's why I'm running for state assembly, and we have so many other good candidates that we've endorsed running for state senate and state assembly up and down the state. We have enough seats that we are within striking distance of to break the Democrat supermajority in Sacramento. And that means that we could stop ACA 8 from actually going on the ballot because they wouldn't have 2/3 vote. Help us get there. Help us create that Reform California caucus. Again, go to reformcalifornia.org, chip in a contribution, and join the fight today. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California. Help us break through the censorship of the liberal media. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and smash that notification button so you can stay up to date on all the developments in California news and politics. Also, please visit the website, reformcalifornia.org, for ongoing news coverage and to join one of our campaigns in the fight to take back our state. If you can, please sign up as a volunteer or chip in a contribution. This episode of Reform California with Carl DeMaio, paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly 2024.